Being a chartered engineer, acquiring membership from certified management accountants supported me immensely to become a chief executive officer of a reputed company. CME is not only producing professional certified accountants, they have been developing their skills through continuous professional development programs. CMA is keen to develop their communication skills as well through their CMA program.
CMA for creating the pathway to being a world-recognized management accountant.
ෂේක් දැදකුද තියෙනව මම නෑනේ. මේ ගාන. ආයුබෝවන්. GCE A level business studies grade 12 11th unit. Today we are going to look at the contribution of trade in distributing the products. That's the topic we are going to discuss. Firstly, let's look at what is trade. Here there's a simple definition given about the trade. Let's have a look. Trade is a process of exchanging the products and services on a particular consideration between the buyer and the seller. So if you look at this definition, here you will see there are two parties involved in a typical trade. Who are they? On one side you have buyer. On the other side you have the seller. Okay? So, who is the buyer? Buyer is the person who is going to buy the product or service. Okay? He or she is the person going to buy the product or service. Then who is the seller? Seller is the person or the entity, let's say, who is going to sell the product or the service. See, now you can link them in a trade. You have buyer who is buying the product or service, and you have the seller who is going to sell the product or the service. Okay? So here, buyer is going to buy whatever the product or service by paying a reasonable price. He or she is going to pay a reasonable price to get the product or service. On the other hand, here we have seller who is going to sell the product or service and wanted to get reasonable profit. Okay? So in the trade what happens? It's an exchange. It's an exchange between these two parties. Now when it comes to the trade, there's something that we have to look at is how to do the distribution, especially when it comes to product trade or goods trade, where there are tangible goods involved, right? Now you can see, now they are in trade, there are two types in terms of the offering. There can be products, there can be services. But when it comes to the products, the physical, tangible goods, we have to know what is the way of distribution, what are the channels of distribution. Okay. Now, let's look at what are the ways if there is a product involved. Now, these are the typical ways of distribution. So, what is distribution? Distribution is where, see, on one end you have the manufacturer, or let us say seller, or let us say owner of the good. On the other end you have the consumer, the final consumer, the person who is going to enjoy the product or service. Right? Now, there has to be a way where manufacturer is going to offer its products to the customer. The way is known as distribution. Now, there can be multiple ways as mentioned here. It depends on what the product is. Now, here if you look at in this diagram, you can see there are mainly 4 ways of distribution, which involves in, as I said earlier, connecting the 2 different parties. One hand you have the seller, the person who owns the good, right? And on the other end you have the person who is going to use it, who is going to consume it. Okay? So, this is how the distribution is going to take place. Okay? There can be multiple channels as I said, but it depends on what the product is. Okay? The first one, we call it direct distribution, where you can see manufacturer here. The entity is going to sell the product directly to the consumer. Now, you can observe what are the examples in the real world for this. Here you have the manufacturer or seller, owner of the good, giving the product directly to the customer or the consumer. Now, in the real world, we do have a lot of examples for this. Let us say you are going to have a meal in a restaurant, right? So, that can be taken under this, where you go to the restaurant and enjoy the meal, right? So, you have the restaurant, you go there as the consumer and you are going to enjoy the meal. Simple as that. Okay. Second one. So, here in onwards, the second, third and fourth, you will see intermediaries. Now, earlier one was a direct distribution, but in here there are intermediaries, right? The second channel, look at it. In between the manufacturer and the consumer, there is a retailer. A retailer, will be learning about him later. Okay. So, in this distribution channel, here there is one intermediary called retailer. So, what happens here? Manufacturer give the products to the retailer and retailer will sell it to the consumer. Now, look at what are the examples available. There are many. let's say you want to enjoy a soft drink. You want to enjoy a soft drink. So how you get it? Mostly in this way. Manufacturer might give it to the retailer. From there, you can get the product and enjoy yourself. Okay. The third one, where, see, now there are two intermediaries. The process is getting more complicated. So here you have a wholesaler. Other than the retailer, there is a wholesaler. Okay. So what happens here? Manufacturer gives the product to wholesaler. Wholesaler is going to give it to the retailer, and retailer will sell the product to the consumer. See, now in real world also there are so many examples under this particular distribution channel. Okay. Let me take one. Now how you get the rice? Okay. How you get the cement mostly? This might be the way. Manufacturer giving the product to the wholesaler, wholesaler would give it to the retailer, and consumer will get the product from the retailer. There are many examples, so I have given few. The fourth way, again getting more complicated. Here see, apart from the wholesaler and the retailer, we have the agent. We have an agent, right? Now there can be different types of agents. I have mentioned them here. Now depending on what they do, we can categorize them. Alright. So let us see these different types of agents. We have a commission agent. Commission agent. Now what this person or the entity supposed to do? So here, let us assume this is an entity, right? This entity will sell the products on behalf of the producer or the manufacturer or the owner of the goods, right? So what this entity is going to do? They are going to sell the products to the immediate, let us say, entity or the person, right, on behalf of the owner. By providing such a service, the commission agent will take a commission. Why? Because they are providing a service where they are acting on behalf of the manufacturer. Another agent, broker. Broker. What this entity is going to do? Broker is there to connect buyers and sellers. What this entity is going to do? They are going to connect buyers and sellers. Now you know who are the sellers, who are the buyers, right? And they will create a platform where the buyers and sellers can exchange their products. By doing so, they are getting a commission, sometimes from both the parties. As the name implies, this entity is going to act as a broker. Another agent, Del Creditor agent. Okay. Now, what this entity is going to do? This entity will sell the products with its own name. So, what the entity is going to do? This agent will use its name to sell the products to the immediate buyer. Okay. Then factor agent, what this person is going to, or the entity is going to do, this entity will sell the products on credit, selling the products on credit to the immediate buyer, and also takes the responsibility of recovering the money. Okay. So, sells the products on credit and have the responsibility of getting back the money. Okay. So, by doing such a service, this entity would earn a factor commission. Apart from the usual commission, they might earn an additional revenue called factor commission. Then we have another agent called auctioneer. As the name implies, this entity is going to have an auction. Going to have an auction, and through that they are going to sell the products. Okay. By doing that, they will earn an additional income called auction fee, because they are supposed to conduct an auction. As a result, they are getting a auction fee. So, these are the types of different agents, right? And the agent is placed in between. You can see most of the time he is playing his role in between the manufacturer and the wholesaler. But there can be situations where you might see a manufacturer, agent, and agent would give the products directly to the retailer, where the wholesaler is no longer there. In other words, they will bypass the wholesaler. Okay. So, there can be such products we are doing that process. So, these are the typical ways of distributing products. So, what would happen to the services? In terms of a product, we looked at different models. If it is a service, now you can imagine what happens with a service. Service mostly happens in what way? Services are most of the time having the direct distribution. Mostly, but there can be some intermediaries, but most of the time if you to enjoy a service, what happens is you are going to directly get it. Okay. Mostly you are getting it directly. That's what happens within a service. Okay. Now in service we might not have such complex models. There can be, but not very often. Coming into the retail trade, now you know what is retail trade. What happens in here? This is where simply an entity or the seller going to sell its products to the end consumer. Who is the end consumer? A person who is going to enjoy or consume that particular product. Wholesale. What happens in wholesale? This is where selling goods to resale, right? So what they do simply, they are selling goods for the, let's say, organizations to resale, right? Simply they are not selling the products to the end consumer. What they do, they sell products mostly to the retailers, and retailers are the entities who are going to sell them to the end consumer. Coming into the foreign trade, now this is very important, right? Now everybody talk about this today. Foreign trade, right? Foreign trade is what? It's where you do the trade. As a country, you do the trade with another country. Oh, there can be many countries. Most of the time there are multiple countries involved. You are not only getting a product from one country. There can be many countries where you are getting, as a country you are getting the products. And on the other hand, you might be supplying products to one or many countries. Okay? So that's what happened under the foreign trade. Exchange of goods between countries. That's the simplest explanation. Foreign trade, what are the types available? Import trade. Import trade, what is it? Importing means what? As a country, you are bringing the products to your country. You bring the products to your country. Let me give an example. Importing cars to Sri Lanka. Okay. So important thing, why foreign trade? Why country has to go for foreign trade? What are the reasons? Now you know that for a country to sustain, to be successful, they have to engage with the foreign trade. You look at any country, they are involved with foreign trade. They are doing this import, export, re-exports, entreport trade. They are doing that. Some might not be there. Let's say they are not doing re-exports, but others would happen. Okay. So why foreign trade? Why it is important? First one, inequality distribution of resources, especially natural resources. You know that when it comes to the natural resources, they are not equally distributed. Right? Example, crude oil. Right? Crude oil. The Middle East countries, they are having a lot of crude oil. They have plenty. So we have to depend on them to get the crude oil. Because we don't have them in here. Even though they have found out, they have not been extracted. Okay. So because of the inequality in resources, we have to depend on foreign trade. Now look at the countries, especially European countries, they are buying tea from us because they don't have such a environment to produce the tea. That's why we are sending the tea to them. Okay. Relative cost advantage. What is this? Now there are certain products, right? We can import them at a lesser cost than we are manufacturing it. Now when it comes to manufacturing it in a country, sometimes it might incur huge cost, but the same can be imported at a lesser price. Right? There are certain products like that. Okay? Where if they are going to manufacture in here, then the cost would be high compared with importing it. Okay. There can be legal monopolies. There can be legal monopolies. Some countries are holding. Right? You know that most of the high-tech products, those companies established in those countries, they are having the patents. Right? They are having the patents for those high-end products, where even it is possible to manufacture it in here, we are not capable to do so because there are some legal requirements. We can't do it here because somebody has taken the patent, and that particular country, the company would be residing on a different country. Okay. And moreover, there may be situations where the countries are importing products with the intention of breaking the current monopoly within the country. Right? Now in Sri Lanka, very famous example is what? Rice. Because here we have a kind of a monopoly for the rice. Right? Now governments sometimes time to time, they might take the decision to import the rice to break the monopoly. If there is a monopoly, you know that the prices would be high because there are very few players in the industry dominating. Right? Because of that, since they are dominating, they can decide. They can establish the price, and that price would be generally high. To break that, what the governments are doing, sometimes they might be importing the products, right, to the country with the aim of breaking the existing monopoly. And then there can be reduction in the prices. Free trade, what is it? It's a very simple thing. This is where conducting the foreign trade with no barriers. Conducting the foreign trade with no barriers. Barriers can be tariff or non-tariff. Right? There can be two types of barriers which can impede the free trade. Right? Tariff, non-tariff. Right? Tariff is where you are charging something. Non-tariff can be certain, basically they can be government decisions. Right? Now in Sri Lanka right now we can't import vehicles. We can't import the vehicles. It's a non-tariff barrier. It's a government initiative or decision with the aim of securing the foreign reserves. Right. For that reason, they are now restricting the importation of vehicles. Import procedure, you should know about this. What are the steps involved in importing products? Now, to import a product, you have to find the suppliers. Then you need to, let's say you are the person or the entity going to import certain thing to the country, right? Then you have to submit a price inquiry where you are asking the price from the suppliers. Not only the price, they might be asking different things like the quality, quantity, conditions, so on and so forth. So this is where they are going to get to know those details by submitting a price inquiry. So, as a respond, the person who is, or the entity who is importing, right, get a quotation. So, that is the response for the price inquiry. Then if there are any license required to import, those should be taken, right. It depends on the product. If such licenses are needed, they have to be taken. Issuing an indent, purchase order. So, once the everything stated above are done, then you can issue a purchase order, right. You are ordering the product, right, and same time you have to make the arrangement for the payments. Mostly when it comes to the foreign trade, the payments are happening via the LC. LC stands for letter of credits. That's how the payments are being processed, okay, with the involvement of banks. Then last, you have to clear the goods. Once they are here, you have to go and clear the goods by producing the relevant documents. Export procedure. Again, what you need to do firstly is to register as an exporter. If you are going to export something to another country, you have to first register as an exporter. Then you need to find a foreign purchaser, right. There has to be someone who is interested to buy your products. If there are any licenses required, then you have to take them, and then you have to respond with a quotation. The purchaser would send you price inquiry, and as a response you have to give a quotation, and then you have to take the indent from the importer, and you have to arrange the necessary shipping facilities, especially, right, because you have to ship the product. Therefore, you have to arrange these documents and the shipping facilities, right, and then you have to insure the products, right. While you are arranging the shipping requirements, you have to insure, and then you have to take after giving the products to the shipping agent, right. You have to take the bill of lading. It's a proof that you get, saying that you have given the products to the shipping line. And finally, you have to arrange how to take the payments, right. So here you need to have an arrangement for the clearing payments. Again, it happens through the letter of credits, okay. So you have to especially pay good attention on the import procedure as well as the export procedure. Now, in foreign trade, we can see there are agreements, collaborations, right. So I have mentioned them here, right. Trade blocks, trade agreements, international organizations, right. These are the agreements, collaborations, right. They are very much essential to continue foreign trade. Okay. If those are there, then we can achieve these. You can see what is the impact in engaging with these agreements and the collaborations. Okay. Especially these organizations and agreements, these collaborations would, give better, let's say, in terms of, let's say, they are very much helpful in, removing the barriers, right? They remove the barriers in foreign trade, especially tariff and non-tariff. Coming into a very crucial topic under trade. Earlier also I gave you a glimpse on this, right? E-commerce, what is it? Simply, now when it comes to trade, everybody talks about the e-commerce, which is in other words also known as e-trade. Right? E for electronic. E-trade, e-commerce, both are synonymous. So what happens in e-commerce? It's where, right, the trade, you know what is trade now? Trade takes place over an electronic network, which is known as what? Internet. Now this is the biggest trend happening right now in the trade, right? E-commerce. Because now people are very much interested on buying the products and services via the websites. Now websites are facilitated with the internet. Okay. What is e-business then? Now sometimes you might get confused with these two terms, e-commerce and e-business, right? If you look at this picture, you might see that e-commerce is only a part of, it's only a subset of e-business, right? It's a subset of e-business. E-business is where, right? Look at here. It's about using the technology, information and communication technology to streamline all the business activities. Simply, what does that mean? It's use of ICT to enable, to facilitate all the business activities, right? So that can be supply interactions, distributor interactions, even internal processes, how you do your accounting, how you do your marketing, how you manage your human resources. For all those, if the technology is being used, we name it as e-business, where e-commerce is only a subset. Because in e-commerce what happens? E-commerce is where company is trying to sell their products and services to the consumers. That's what this is supposed to do. So it's only a one particular function within the e-business. Okay. Typical e-commerce process. What happens in here? How you do a e-commerce transaction? Very simple. You need to visit the website. Then you have to select the product. Then you have to pay. Then the product will be delivered to you. Simple as that. Go to the website, select the product, pay, then the company will deliver the product to the consumer. Forms of e-commerce. There can be many as mentioned here. Okay? But the first 4 are very important, and we can easily observe them in the real world, right? So let's have a look. B2B, right? Now you have to understand this. B2B, business to business. What does it mean? Now you can see 2 different parties are there, right? The preceding party and the subsequent party. So here what happens is, now you try to get it clear. You use the technology. Let's say there's a website, right, where one particular business, right, let's say that business owns a website where another business can buy the products, buy the services even, right. So in between these 2 parties there is a website. Now when it comes to the e-commerce, the core is the internet and the web technology, right. So here very simple, a business is giving its products or services to another business via a website, right. So probably what would happen is, this particular business, the preceding party might be having a website, so the subsequent party can go into that website and buy the products, right. Now there are companies and there are examples that we can witness this. B2C is very popular than the others. B2C is what? That's what we do as the consumers. Okay? What happens? Business offering its products or services, let's say, to the consumer. That's what we do, right? What we do as the consumers, we go into one particular website which is owned by a business and we buy the goods, right? Good example, you buy something from eBay, you buy something from Amazon. So business is the Amazon or the eBay, right? You are the consumer. Business owns a website, through that they are selling their products and services to the consumer. Very simple, right? C2C, this is where consumers are giving their products and services to other consumers. Now they are not businesses, they are consumers. Now see, now in Sri Lanka we have platforms. Let's say I have a let's say used mobile phone. I have a used mobile phone which I no longer needed. So if I wanted to sell, there are platforms available, right? So I am not a business, I am a typical consumer where I have an additional used phone which I would interested to sell to another. Probably it will be taken by another consumer, right? And also we can see G2C, government to citizens. Yes, now even the government services are given to the citizens through the websites. Now in Sri Lanka, see, now we can obtain our vehicle revenue licenses via a website. It's not a company, right? It's a government service, right? Where citizens can get the service from that particular website, right? The other three are not that famous, but they are in the existence, right? Now, if you look at the not in Sri Lanka but other countries, especially developed countries, established countries, they are using these models, right? Where if you look at this one, business to government, if the government organization need any product or service, they can get that from a business through a website. Business owns a website. A government, institute can get the product or service from that website. Those are available, but not that much popular as first four. Okay. E-commerce. There are many benefits for both the consumer and the vendor, right? But same time there are few limitations too, right? Although there are many benefits, yes, there are few limitations, but some limitations can be alleviated. Okay. Let's quickly look at what are the benefits. Cost and price benefits. Cost for the what? For the vendor. Because now vendor can directly sell the product without any intermediaries. Vendor can sell the product directly to the consumer. So there is a cost advantage. We as the consumers, we get the price benefit because now there are no intermediaries. As a result, we would get the price benefit definitely. Market would be expanded. Yes, we can reach to the global products as the consumers. At the same time, vendors also can sell their products to the other countries. Right? Ubiquity, availability. Right? Now you can do your transaction by staying at your home, or while you are at work, or while you are traveling. It's just a matter of using the right device with the technology. So now most of the people, they are having mobile phones, smart ones, with the internet technology. So wherever you are, whenever you want, you can go and buy the goods. Convenience, very simple thing, right? Convenience, it's very convenient. And broader selection, we can go for a broader selection. As the consumers, there's more choices. If you go into a website, you can see so many things. So you can go and choose the right one. Okay. Likewise, there are many benefits. Limitations. What would be the limitations? Accessibility issues. Still, there are people who are not familiar with the technology. Right? Right? Which comes as the lack of knowledge even. Right? And for some places, you don't have the access to the internet. There are connectivity problems. Okay, that's what is mentioned as accessibility issues. Some people, they don't have the access depending on the place, and sometimes even people, they might not have the smart devices. Right? If you look at the global internet penetration, right, it's somewhere around 50%, which means that there are another 50% who are not accessing the internet. But now there is a exponential growth in the internet usage. In coming years, this will be solved to a greater extent. Payment problems, yes, There can be payment problems because you have to do, digital payments, right? Not like paying in cash. There can be a lot of malpractices, right? The product that you ordered would not be the same one that you are getting, and there can be quality issues, right? And there can be security problems too, because you are dealing with, confidential information. You will be giving your, credit card details. You will be exposing your, personal information. Then if those are going into wrong hands, then there can be negative consequences, right? So that's what we need to know under this particular topic, right? I believe that I have explained everything clearly within this limited time. Have a nice day.